we just have to stop producing plastic.
Yeah.
If there's a way we can move to circular economy, then that would be better.
Yeah.
Yes, because if we say that we are now recycling plastics, this will never stop.
Okay.
Yes, so we just have to decide and stop on the production itself as we move to a circular economy. It goes ahead to say that we need to find a systematic way of doing so. Carbon credits in simple terms is just a way companies do offset their carbon footprints by investing in green projects elsewhere. Carbon emissions come in majorly are caused by the human activities. That is by the burning of fossil fuels. You can burn fossil fuels even just by picking that wood to maybe cook or do something else. You can also burn fossil fuels through the engines, that is by your car and everything. Now the whatever the byproduct that comes from it, those are carbons, and to some extent maybe a smaller percentage of methane.
Yeah.
Now when carbon leaves, it causes to the rise of world temperatures, which in turn causes global warming, and in turn causes climate change. And that is how carbon emissions are related to climate change.
Welcome back to a second episode of the Triple C series by the Stan Media Foundation. I'm your host Christine from Stan Media 254. So in today in the house we have a very special guest. A guest who's solely focused on environmental conservation, environmental planning and implementation. So he's going to share with us insightful gems regarding the same. So stay tuned. So thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. So first things first, kindly introduce yourself.
My name is Lawrence Ogango. I'm a writer, a recent graduate of environmental science, also the founder of Eco-Friend magazine.
Insightful, very good. So based on your track record, or rather your academic background, you have a bachelor's degree in environmental science, right?
Yeah, true.
So would it be presumptuous for us to assume that your passion for all things environment basically stemmed or got nurtured from when you were very young, or it stemmed along the way in the course of your study?
That could be partly true. Honestly speaking, before I joined campus, I didn't really have interest on environment. And also the first year of my study, I wasn't really into it until I joined the club itself. And so we also got for field excursions where I would actively engage on them. And that's how I got interested on environmental issues.
Yeah.
And that's when I started writing. Yes.
So basically, as you had guys, it's not always too late to start caring about the environment, basically what's around you, and taking care of the environment, which takes us to the next question. So you mentioned, Lawrence, that you're the founder and CEO of Eco-Friend magazine, right?
Yeah, true.
So it's an e-magazine. So basically, what would you say you represent as an environmental magazine?
As Eco-Friend magazine, we focus on climate action, climate education, biodiversity restoration through education itself. So my blogs are focused on educating people about the environment itself. Yes.
Okay, very good. So when you are starting the magazine, you obviously had objectives that you put in place and basically aims that you are hoping to achieve basically. So far in your journey as a writer or the founder of Eco-Friend magazine, would you think that the objectives that you set before have been met so far?
I'd not say they've been met, but in the process of meeting them, the objective was to reach as many people as possible in educating them about the environment itself
Very good.
through the blogs.
Yeah, nice. So basically, what matters is you started and you're reaching people.
Yes.
Yes, very good.
Slowly
But sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So in your mission statement in the magazine, you describe yourself as a very pragmatic, passionate, and dedicated environmental scientist.
Yes, true.
You're obviously a scientist because you went through
Yeah,
4 years
sure.
of college as an environmental scientist again, basically. So, so basically, you focus on climate change education through blogs, environmental planning, management, monitoring, and green energy. So the question here is, would you attribute your prowess or your expertise in this field to your academic qualifications, given that you went through college studying, university? Hey, so given that you studied environmental science, so is this degree coming in handy in terms of giving you, for example, a trajectory or basically pointers on how you should handle your magazine or basically any environmental activities that you're involved in?
Sure, my studies take a bigger part in whatever I do on the magazine itself, because it's through the knowledge that I can write on the specific topics that I studied.
Yeah.
And a little bit about the experience that I do get as well.
Now that climate change has become a very major issue in recent times, so now that individuals are trying to come up with ways, or rather young people, they're trying to be involved in climatic action. So would it be safe to, for example, advise them to pursue environmental science as a course to basically help in their fight against rapid climate change?
Sure, they should. Actually, I have a feeling that they should have a subject in primary and secondary specifically for environmental issues. It could be environmental science or maybe science or whichever name they decide to give it, other than having that domiciled in one book like science, so that maybe by the time someone gets to the university, they already decide on what they want to do if they want to focus on the environmental science course itself. So it's a good course for you if you have the passion. Yes, if you have the passion for environment. Yes.
Okay, so a follow-up question on that.
Yes.
What would you advise somebody who has the assumption that environmental science is not a marketable course?
I'd not say it's marketable or not marketable. I think it depends on what you want after you finish your campus degree.
Okay, nice, insightful. So, like any other project, there always is a driving force behind the execution of any given idea.
Yeah.
So, what was yours when you decided to begin Eco-Friend magazine, and when you're at it, basically, what are some of the challenges that you encountered along the way?
You see, I always felt like we were always taking action when fighting climate change, but we really didn't understand what it was.
Yeah.
So for example, I come and tell you need to plant trees.
Yeah.
So you plant trees, but you don't understand what these trees do. So I thought that maybe educating these people, they will see the sense of doing something that they understand.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's why I started this magazine. I think at the moment the challenge that I would face was because I was doing something else. So it was just dedicating the time to the magazine. Because when I started out, I'd do maybe 2 articles in a week, 20 to 1 in a month, and then 1 maybe 3 months, 2 months. Yeah.
Okay, very insightful. So another question. So Eco-Friend magazine is governed by the Environmental International Policies and Frameworks, MCA 1999, and the Paris Agreement 2015. So in the simplest terms possible, so basically shed more light on what the Paris Agreement is.
Paris Agreement, I think that will be the best conference, if you ask me, because that is the first time the world leaders, that is the countries and scientists and professionals, came together to talk about the environmental issues. And for the first time, almost every state agreed to reduce the world temperatures to between 1.5 degrees Celsius to 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. NEP Executive Director Inga Anderson, during the launch of the Turning Off the Tap report, mentions verbatim that we will not recycle our way out of plastic pollution crisis. This is a reference you made in one of your articles. Elaborate on the validity of this statement.
Inga definitely means that we just have to stop producing plastic.
Yeah.
If there's a way we can move to circular economy, then that would be better.
Yeah.
Yes, because if we say that we are now recycling plastics, this will never stop.
Okay.
Yes, so we just have to decide and stop on the production itself as we move to a circular economy. It goes ahead to say that we need to find a systematic way of doing so.
So the next question. So carbon emissions are arguably one of the biggest contributors to
That's
climate
true.
change. Kindly explain the role they play in regard to environmental pollution. Sorry.
Yeah, just to cycle it back,
Yeah.
let me put a disclaimer here. Carbon 4 oxide is not really bad. Carbons are not really bad.
Yeah.
But now if we have excess of that in the atmosphere, then that's where we get the problem.
Yeah.
Now, carbon emissions come in majorly are caused by the human activities.
Yeah.
That is by the burning of fossil fuels. You can burn fossil fuels even just by picking that wood to maybe cook or do something else. You can also burn fossil fuels through the engines, that is by your car and everything. Now the whatever the byproduct that comes from it, those are carbons, and to some extent maybe a smaller percentage of methane.
Yeah.
Now when carbon leaves, it causes to the rise of world temperatures, which in turn causes global warming, and in turn causes climate change. And that is how carbon emissions are related to climate change.
Basically, a follow-up question on that. What steps do you think can be taken in order to reduce carbon emissions?
Now, when I was answering the previous question, I mentioned that one of the ways that we get these carbon emissions are through the machines, the human activities generally, which is burning of the fossil fuels.
Yeah.
We understand that the larger percentage of people living on Earth, they depend on machines that are run on either petrol, diesel, or whatever kind of fuel that they use.
Yeah.
So that is still fossil fuel, and the byproduct is the carbon. Now, if we could try and go green by choosing the renewable energy, that could be solar, hydropower. That is one way that you can try and reduce carbon emissions. Another way is that, you see, there is always we always fancy when we have our own cars, but if we could carpool, there's a difference between having 10 cars on the road and having one car on the road. The effect from one car and effect from 10 cars emitting the same carbon is different. Yes, so if we could carpool also, and another way of doing that, if we could just plant more trees, meaningful ones, the indigenous trees, or the ones that could sequestrate carbon a lot. For example, I've seen a lot, if I give you an example, in the coast where they plant a lot of mangroves, because mangrove is a good sequester. Okay. And we have to get it right here. When planting trees, you have to do indigenous ones. Also, you can incorporate the ones that can give you food. Because if it is SDGs, you take it as it is. Yeah. So planting trees just to sequestrate the carbon as well. Yes. Other than that, you can also engage in these green energies. And then what we can also think about is government policies. We need to have a political goodwill for this to happen, because without political goodwill, it cannot work.
For sure.
And also implementation of the already policies that have been put in place to curb carbon emissions. It needs to be pragmatic and very practical, because we have so many good policies, but I doubt if they are full to the latter. Yes.
Oh, that's a very insightful response. So, on to our next question. carbon credits has become a term, basically a buzzword,
Yeah, that's
that
true.
is recurring in climate circles conversations in the recent times. And you've written a very insightful article on the same. So maybe you can start in the most basic term possible. What are carbon credits?
Carbon credits, in simple terms, is just a way companies do offset their carbon footprints by investing in green projects elsewhere. So let's say you see there's something that the third world countries, the developing countries, are those countries that do feel the effect of the climate change, yet they don't even contribute to it. Now, these companies that we believe are the major causes of carbon emissions and greenhouse gases do take part in projects, in green projects in these developing countries in a way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
Basically, from that explanation, you can highlight the benefits of carbon credits. So, still on that, a follow-up question on the same. We understand that there are different types of carbon credits. So, are you able to briefly describe the two types of carbon credits that are in existence?
Yes, the two types of carbon credits, the first one is compliance and the other one is voluntary. Just as the names suggest, compliance is where the government demands that you offset, that you get the carbon credits, and voluntary is where you, in your own volition, you feel like you can purchase the carbon credits because you do emit these gases, basically, in simple terms.
So again, based on that very simple explanation that you have given, it is very clear that carbon credits replenish the environment, but it
True.
also begs the question, doesn't this allow companies to pollute the environment at a greater scale because in foresight they feel entitled to basically produce more waste based on the premise that they're going to take accountability by investing in other renewable energy projects or basically green projects?
Yes, these are yes, because there are some companies that can see this as a chance not to follow the guidelines, and in return, they will be emitting these gases.
All right, that's very good, very good. So far, so thank you very much for taking us through this very insightful discussion so far.
Appreciate it.
Okay, and so now for a controversial question that is going to trigger people a bit. So we have the sentiment that is going around, and it's when is climate change a hoax? And I say a hoax, I mean, is it a fake? Is it a PR stunt that people are using to get around and promote like more controversy?
In this world, you have to believe in something. So there are people who believe that it is fake. There are people who believe that it is real. But now I'm taking a stand that is real because there are signs. You can see that climate change is real. For example, we experience extreme temperatures, something that we were not used to, and we can attribute that to climate change. You can't attribute that to something else, because in a normal world, let's say in tropical Africa, you don't expect to have high temperatures, maybe at a certain month. And when you experience that, we attribute that to climate change. You've seen recently, KEMFRI, that is Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute, claimed that the coral reefs are bleaching. That is a sign of a climate change. So climate change being a reality is something that you can actually see. You can feel it. Although it happens after a long period, you can actually see that after a long period of time, but it is something that you can see. So yes, it is true.
Yeah, so as you heard from Lawrence, climate change is a very valid and urgent issue that needs to be addressed with immediate effect. And we're basing this on the fact that we are seeing flash floods, we are seeing food insecurity, like a bunch of issues are going on. So it would be very ignorant to acknowledge that climate change is a hoax.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So on to the next question. Explain why it is paramount for each and every one of us to take part in the climate change eradication process.
You see, one characteristic of climate change is that the effect can be felt anywhere. So you see, you can pollute the environment here, but somewhere in Tanzania, the effect is being felt over there. They're transboundary, let me say so. So it's something that affects you from where you are to your neighbor. So it starts from you. The same way we were being taught while we were young that you start cleaning the environment by yourself. Whatever you see in your surrounding,
Yeah.
because at this point when I burn fossil fuels, the temperatures that will rise are here. I'm the one who is going to be affected. So it starts with yourself, not even the government or someone else.
So I'm going to need your opinion on this. So do you believe we'll have taken a turn, negative or positive, in a few years' time in regard to climate change? Do you have any expectations or hopes or projections in regard to that?
I do have hope in the climate action conversation, especially if we talk. Let's just begin with the COPs. Recently we had COP28. We're going for COP29. You see these conversations now. Before they used to be between professionals and scientists. Now everyone is involved, and everyone right now is having a conversation about the environmental conservation and also climate change. So with more information on the internet and everywhere else, mainstream media and schools, I think we are going to have a very honest conversation about climate change. And the fact that everyone now is acknowledging that it is a vital issue that is affecting us, we will have a positive feedback on the same.
Okay. On to our last question. So, in conclusion, your involvement or niche basically in the environmental space is clearly through mass media, that is educating the masses on what they need to be up to date on in regard to environmental issues. Now that you found your niche, what advice would you offer to our viewers who want to be involved in environmental causes in their own meaningful ways?
Just the same way I found my niche, they can also find something that they can do in regards to environment. Doesn't have to be through mass media, could be through activism, could be through community engagement. It could be through anything. As far as it's about the environment, they can just go for it.
Yeah, so you had it, people. So your involvement in any environmental cause doesn't have to be big or small, just have to be in your own meaningful, special way. So on to our part two section of this particular interview. So before you continue, so thank you so much again, Lawrence, for this informative and educative session. Now you're going to go to our second part of the conversation. So you have developed a fun and factual game to help more people understand at an individual level what they can do to participate in the cause of being a climatic change champion. So we call the game the triple C flashcard game. So I'm going to ask you two questions, and you're going to imagine yourself in the shoes of three categories of people. Number one, the government. Number two, an NGO. And number three, from an individual point of view. So I'm going to give you a problem or an environmental concern that is happening, and you're going to address it from your own point of view.
Okay, that's right.
Okay.
Bring it on.
So for our first question,
Yes.
So looking at UAE, in Dubai in the recent days, there's been a record of extremely high rainfall, which has led to the sweeping away of cars by floodwaters, building foundations being shaken, schools being closed, and airport activities being ground to a halt. So basically,
really
we have
sad.
all these basic activities which we do on a daily basis being not able to be done because we have floods. So we had rain, which basically rain that was supposed to have rain for the next, let's say, 2 years, raining in a single day. So you're going to insert a clip of basically what's happening on the ground over there, that you can see what's happening in Dubai at the moment. And basically, it begs the question, what are the causes of such floods? And if there's any particular best way to respond to these kind of emergencies where human life is at risk. So as you're going to give the causes, so you're also going to give the best way forward. How would you respond if you are part of the government? How would you respond if you're part of an NGO? How would you respond if you are part of an individual? So let's begin from the causes of such flash floods.
The causes of the flash floods in Dubai have not been established yet, but we can speculate cloud seeding that they did, which may have caused this, or we could attribute this to climate change, because climate change leads to high temperatures, and with the high temperatures there's evaporation, which will cause an abnormally weather pattern. So in a place where maybe you have 1,000 liters of rainfall in a month, because something like this has happened, there will be extra rainfall, and that will lead to flash floods. Now, and because these are a city, and it's in a desert, and that means that it's a concrete with no proper soil for that drainage. Yes, you may have the best drainage systems that are man-made, but still there's an amount of water that has to be naturally drained in the soil. But you see, when we have concrete everywhere, that cannot happen, and that's why we had the flash floods. Now, as an individual, what I'd do, first I'd really cry, because this is something that is a phenomenon. I know I was watching the clouds and everything else. It's like it was in the movies. So as an individual, I think the first thing that I'd alert everyone else about the same, whatever I'm experiencing, and if possible, I'd evacuate. And then as a government, because I'm the government, so I have all the might. First of all, I'd declare this as an emergency, actually a national disaster or whatever you can call it, and then offer help, whichever, from medical to food staff to everything else, and also engage the professionals, city planners, and everyone else in combating this. As an NGO, I'd channel funds, which will go a long way to assist with food, shelter, which may be temporary for a while, and also medication. Yes.
All right. So that is on an NGO level.
Yes.
So what would you do at an individual level?
At an individual level, the first thing that I'd do is maybe I'd inform other people, in case you are planning to come wherever we are, please don't.
Yeah.
No, don't come home, basically. So, and then another thing, maybe I'll just try and evacuate, because you see, as an individual, you are right in the middle of this. So if I can get out of that place, the earlier the better. Yeah.
Okay. For a second question of the Triple C flashcard game, the question is, looking at Africa, based on the recent event of the Freddy cyclone that happened in Malawi, where the death toll was more than 100 people. So what would have been your first response as number one, the government, number two, the NGO, number three, as an individual?
As the government, obviously, the first response would be sending help in terms of food, in terms of evacuation to the people that I can, and also offering them shelters in places that are dry.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, as an NGO, I'd do the same, because I'd channel the available finances to these people. I'd also maybe if I could procure something like the needed drugs, food, and shelter, clothing, and also if if you could send the team there just to check on the situation.
At an individual level, what would be your first response now that a cyclone has happened?
At an individual level, if these are my fellow countrymen, or just fellow humans, let me say so. If I'd be in a position to assist, I'd maybe take some to my house. That's the first one. And assist with the little that I could in terms of food, shelter, clothing. Yeah.
So to close out on that, so briefly, what do you think are the causes of such cyclones, and what would be the best way forward to prepare for them in future?
Okay, in my understanding, cyclones are caused by rapid storms, and this happens from the oceans. So when the ocean water is heated, it will cause storms, and these storms are moved by winds. So when they move, that is what we call a cyclone. So in the future, maybe it all revolves back to climate change, really. If we could just be proactive, and then if we could do mangroves along the oceans, because there's a way these mangroves can stop the storms from getting to the land. This is proven, because mangroves, there's a way they prevent that from happening. Yes.
All right, very good. So we've come to the end of this segment, and thank you once again, Lawrence, for this very informative and educative interview on environmental conservation and climate change education. For all our viewers who may be interested in following your work to support you, how can they reach you, Lawrence?
Oh, I was waiting for that part, by the way. So for you to reach us, you can reach us through email, that is info at ecofriendmagazine.com, or you can visit our social media pages. It's ecofriend everywhere. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can also Google ecofriendmagazine.com. It's one word. Ecofriendmagazine is one word.com, for you to read our articles over there. They are about the environmental conservation and climate action, climate education as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Lawrence. Been nice having you.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
So that has been it from us, a Stan Media Foundation YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in. So kindly like our content, subscribe for more climatic education content. So also visit our website for you to get more insights on capacity building events near you. It's been me, Christine, your host. Bye bye. Till next time.